Okay, I have a question for you.
So,
What's got your panties in a twist?
oh, I'm a visual guy, so let's not go there. Anyways,
Rewind.
Anyways,
Be kind, rewind.
today we were talking about before the podcast. We were talking a little bit about licensing, and I have a big big axe to grind about the licensing, especially in some parts of the market. Okay, so this one took a long time to set up. How are we today? Hello.
Hello. Welcome back to ThatITShow podcast. And I have a question for you.
Oh, do we have an official introduction now?
No, but we can work on that.
We should be working on that. There was actually a guy asking me, why don't we say who we are? So we're not going to start today.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me start.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me set up the scene. So
I love this.
when people sell you cloud services, they say that cloud services are flexible, on demand, and cheap.
Okay.
Everything is cheap when it's being sold.
Yes.
So okay, I'm buying the cheap is a lie.
Okay.
On demand is more or less a lie because you cannot scale as much as you think you can.
Okay. As COVID proved.
Yes, as
eloquently.
COVID proved. So scaling is also limited, but it's limited in such a way that it usually won't bug you.
Okay.
But on demand is part of the problem. The part of the problem is that you want to be able to both scale up and scale down. I thought about it for probably a couple of hours. I'm failing to see a service other than Microsoft and Google who are actually able to provide you with a service that is going to be scalable by month, that you are going to be able to both subscribe to for more licenses or subtract licenses from your account, and to see it at the end of the month without you being penalized by paying much more when you want to create demand-driven. So basically flexible pricing. Everybody is talking about flexible pricing. They say you can add as many licenses you need, as you can subtract as many licenses as you need. But as soon as you want to buy something, it's either for a year, and then the licenses are cheaper. And then if you want to subtract the licenses, they usually say, okay, but you must leave the license number where it was when you got the initial agreement. You can go up, but you cannot subtract the licenses. This is the first thing. The second thing is that what I wanted you to talk with me, and I want your opinion on, is how do we measure perpetual licensing versus subscription licensing?
Excellent topic.
When we are dealing with cloud services,
Okay.
when we are dealing with on-premise services primarily on your desktop, so not server services. So, for
Okay.
example, Photoshop, for example, Premiere, for example, any other software that you're using day to day, and how we are dealing with perpetual versus subscription models with additional services, for example, plugins for different devices, and how we are dealing with subscriptions to actual physical devices. So, for example,
Okay.
Meraki.
Okay.
Meraki being probably the prime example of if you buy a subscription, it works. If you don't buy a subscription, it's a brick.
Let's go in the reverse order for a second,
Okay.
if it's okay with you. I have another one on the hardware side which annoys the hell out of me and has been doing that for many years now. It's kind of partially hardware and software based. It's related to ILO,
Okay.
HP Remote Console.
Okay. So the two types of licenses, and you actually buying a license. Let me just add RAID licenses for controllers on some
yes.
service.
Oh yes. That's the same thing.
Okay.
For me, I absolutely love HP servers. So let me state the stage.
Okay.
Almost all of the servers that we have in company are HP. almost all of the servers that I work with are either HP or Dell, but mostly HP. But there's one thing that I cannot stand for the life of me, which is the ILO licensing. Basically, it's like I'm selling you a device that has remote access, which is a built-in feature, but you still have to pay for that. Which is, in this case, it's an essential feature. Because without that, it is impossible to be an engineer in a company that has more than just a couple of servers.
But basically, the only reason why you are paying for the server class motherboards is usually remote management.
Agreed. And
So-
they should be on every single motherboard that exists on the planet.
Yes. They sort of are, but let's not go into it.
Yeah. Okay,
the-
vPro and stuff.
Remote management is something that is basically the reason why you buy servers. So having a
Yes.
server with remote management disabled out of the box and then requiring you to pay for something is basically the same thing that happens when you buy a printer and you don't get the cable.
No, this is worse. Actually, this annoys a little bit the hell out of me even more, a little bit, because you actually can log into ILO, then you can use it, and this after 20, 30 seconds of booting the server, then it disconnects you.
Okay.
That's even more annoying.
Oh,
because
okay. That's fine then.
Yeah.
You can connect. You can connect.
You can connect, yeah. I can go to the physical server, hook up a monitor, and resume working after my ISO file that I used for remote deployment has been disconnected. Of course, then reboot, 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah.
I'm not going to mention names because I don't know what the
Why
state-
not? It is what it is.
Yes, but I'm not going to mention names because I'm not completely sure if the problem is still there. But when I was a much younger IT guy and when I was still young in the server market,
Don't do that.
I had to order a server, or I had to reconfigure a server for a client,
Mhm.
and then basically they had to stick to one vendor.
Mhm.
I was used to HP shenanigans and the Dell shenanigans because basically when they sell you a server,
Mhm.
if it says something on the box, it usually works.
Mhm.
So if you're buying, for example, a controller that is able to do the RAID 0, 1, 5, and 6,
Mhm.
usually this controller is actually able to do the RAID 0, 1, 5, and 6.
Agreed.
A particular vendor is selling you a controller that is able to do 0, 1, 5, and 6, but in order to use the RAID 5 and 6, you
You
need to
have
pay
to-
additional license after you get the server. And this is complete insanity.
There's actually one more topic to add to this, which was very, very, very present in the past couple of days. I contacted you about this week a couple of
Yes.
times. Most of the HBAs
Yes.
do not work in newer Windows versions if they're older than, let's say, SAS free. No drivers. This is not related to licensing. It's related to support, but it's hell annoying.
But this is the problem that I have with a lot of hardware, because hardware is okay. We may say that the hardware that we're using is getting worse, but enterprise level hardware, for example, I don't know, Cisco access points, older servers, and so on, are completely capable of working even after 5, 6, 7, 8 years, up to 10 years. The idea of your hardware being bricked by a software update because somebody doesn't want to do the support is, I wouldn't say insane, but I think it's malicious. Because
Agreed.
you're doing two things. First, you are saying to the customer, I don't care about the old hardware, you need to buy new.
Mm-hmm.
And you are saying, screw the environment. Because
Yes.
you are intentionally creating e-waste.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, I don't know, an access point in a mall. Nobody cares if the access point is able to provide the quickest of the speed, so the whatever is the right now Wi-Fi 6 AX, whatever standard, as long as customers are not complaining about the wireless. Because nobody is complaining about the wireless in the malls. The idea of having to throw out and change the entire configuration of the network, by entire configuration I mean the entire hardware of the network every 5 years, is stupidity.
Just kind of like to explain, when I talked about drivers, I was specifically talking about Microsoft Windows Server, because all of those HBAs work perfectly in Linux and ESXi as well.
Just to make a smallish point, is Broadcom working on a Windows Server? Okay, now on to the topic at hand. But
Okay.
I wouldn't mind if the server guys, whatever, enterprise level guys for whatever equipment there is, just stated this is no longer supported. You cannot get support for this, but the driver is as it is. That's it.
Mhm.
You get the driver if you want to do something on the device.
Here it's actually worse because it's very difficult to even find the drivers for the old hardware on the what used to be Avago, now Broadcom site. It's almost impossible.
Yes, but the problem is that even if you find the driver is probably actively going to deny being installed on whatever version of the Windows there is.
Hmm.
And
That happened a couple of times yesterday.
yes, and to get the whole mess even more messier, when you're dealing with all the hardware, you're usually dealing with I don't know, ActiveX controls that are unable to be installed on the newer version of whatever browser you have.
Mhm.
So you cannot use Internet Explorer anymore because Microsoft actively deleted it. You cannot.
You can actually. There is a way of actually
Yes,
using
there
it,
is
but
a way,
still
but once
not
you,
as it should be.
once you need to find a way to do it, it's not good.
Agreed.
And it is going to be even worse because providers that are, we started on the hardware side, so let's talk about the hardware. They're usually pushing for new units. The only thing that everybody cares right now is units. They just want to to make you buy new units, so new hardware.
Can I make a very stupid and semi-irrelevant point to our discussion?
Yes?
You know that last year I took my sweet time to do that retro PC.
Yes.
Coincidentally, a topic of one of our future
Yes, okay.
podcasts. I have Adaptex CAS inside twice.
Okay.
One of them kindly given by you. Thank you. Works in Windows XP. Works
Okay.
in 98. Works in Vista.
Okay.
Works in XP. Works in Windows 7.
Okay.
Works in Windows 8.
Okay. And
Do
the
you
stuff-
see a pattern here?
Yes.
Not so on the server, and that hardware is much more expensive relative to what that SCSI thing used to be back then.
But I think that Microsoft was much more lenient about not giving up on the device drivers way back then. I think that right now they decided that the problem with the drivers is as it is because it actually created problems. We know that the problem was there because if you used all drivers, since Microsoft was meh about deciding how the drivers are going to actually work on the Windows, they created different ways of interacting with the kernel. So this created a problem for some version of Windows and some version of drivers. This is the first thing. And the other thing is that a lot of people who were providing the drivers weren't so sure how to write the drivers themselves, so they created instability in the Windows themselves. So
That's all cool.
I understand that Microsoft is going
That's what
to...
VHQL is for.
Yes, but the other thing is that even with this in mind, I want to be able to get a driver.
Agreed.
Microsoft should be able to create an archive of all drivers that is going to be obsolete, unsupported, whatever, with big red
And
exclamation
easy to
marks,
find.
and then easy to find.
Yes.
So Windows Update should be telling me, I have a driver that is unsupported, that doesn't work, and so on, but you can try it because we don't want to throw away this hardware. And this is an enormous amount of hardware. But let's not talk about this.
Okay, let's go.
Let's not talk about the insanity of the Microsoft licensing because this is going to be a topic for another couple of episodes.
Yes.
Because Microsoft licensing is what, 3-day course now, 5-day course.
No. Let's put it this way. Both you and I went in the past went to same college. Pick whatever the hardest exam for you was. It's a piece of cake to Microsoft's licensing exam 1 and 2 that I did 8 or 9 years ago. I have nothing against the fact that these exams are difficult, so that's not the topic. But they are insane, and the kind of like conclusion from that, and the same applies to VMware, the same applies to Red Hat, the same applies to practically everybody. None of them really know how their licensing works.
I think that the biggest problem is that they're trying to tell you you are not allowed to make mistakes in the billing department. So you never should be making mistakes when it comes to licensing. So the licensing exam is complicated.
It doesn't exist anymore, but
yes,
yeah, it was very difficult. Two exams.
But at the same time, they are trying to go with the flow and try to rearrange the licensing basically every couple of months. So the prices change, the way the licensing works changed.
The sockets, the cores, the logical cores,
the logical cores. Yes, the services change. Services change names. So suddenly you are stuck with 3 or 4 different product names that are basically covering the same thing, but in different versions of the same product. So let's not go into this.
Okay, let's go back.
Let's not mention Oracle and the way they do licensing. Because back way then, Oracle was considered
to be complicated.
To be complicated. And right now, I think that Oracle is probably the most straight one.
Okay, I would actually agree with that, which is insane.
Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning. Why would you buy... Let me ask you a question. Why would you buy monthly licensing agreement with whatever? Let's say Photoshop.
There isn't a force in the universe that will ever make me buy that.
Okay.
That being said, if I was somebody who uses Photoshop as a daily driver for my job, if the price wasn't insane, I would consider it probably.
Yes, but I have a big problem there. Everybody is using this if this is my daily job. But even with my daily job, this is not a person who we are dealing with. What we are dealing with, because a person who uses Photoshop for the daily job is going to pay whatever price there is. Because,
unfortunately, yes.
Because basically the price cannot be as high as something that couldn't be afforded by somebody who's making money out of it. So in the whole pricing, budgeting part of any project, licensing for a couple of months of a product is not going to be making any big problems, yeah, and any damage to the accounts. But what we are dealing with is basically what they are saying when they are selling you the products. They're telling you this is supposed to be a product that you can buy whenever you want it, use it for a couple of months, whatever, then stop using it. Then continue using it. And at the same time, the pricing itself is structured in such a way that it is way, way, way more expensive to use it like this. So people buy it basically per year description. And there is a reason why I chose Photoshop. Because...
Okay, I know.
Because if you cancel the subscription near your expiration date, basically the automatical system that is going to give you the pricing for the next year is going to say, okay, don't leave us, we are going to give you up to 50% of discount. So everybody who's paying continually is paying more than the customer who is being occasional customer who doesn't care. And this is another insanity. Not only is it is not cheaper to buy it by month, it is more expensive. And if you are
create steering of customers,
yes,
which is unnatural.
Yes, and then if you are paying as a regular customer because you need your application to work, suddenly you need to play games with Adobe in order to get the better pricing.
I have a second thing to add to that as well. It is insane that any software, I don't care what it is, if it has a subscription licensing, I want it to have a perpetual licensing as well. I don't care what their excuse is. It should be something that's in the law.
Yes, yes, because I'm not sure about.
I'm not talking about cloud services. Talking about software now.
Yes, and there is one thing that also bothers me, but this is just a tangent. There is a software that I was using in one of my previous jobs. It had a bug. It was, I think it was a video editing software, and basically the bug was that you were unable to combine 2 mono channels into 1 stereo channel. So something that would be pretty normal
Audacity
thing.
As a free program can do that.
Yes, so it was a bug. Basically, you try to combine 2 mono channels into 1 stereo channel, you got only 1 mono channel in. The other one was completely discarded. So they had a subscription. You could buy a subscription, and it was a sort of kind of perpetual license. So if you were buying a subscription-based model, so every 6 months there was a new version, if you bought the new version inside there is a window of a couple of months, you got a steep discount on the next version. So
and probably an update that made it work.
yes, this was my point. They decided to skip on the update on the current version because they said the next version is going to be out in 2 weeks. This is going to be fixed, and we don't care about you unless you upgrade to the next version. Because they use the
Sorry, but the word scam comes to mind.
yes, this is one thing, and the other thing is that they use the hybrid system where you could actually stop paying for the upgrades. You got the perpetual license for the product that you last bought, so the last version that you bought for. But the problem was that when you decide that you need to upgrade, you had to pay for every upgrade in the up to the upgrade that you are paying for. So if you skip 3 upgrades, you had to pay for 3 different licenses in order to get current.
Please don't. I can't even,
So this is one of the ways that licensing is not working.
I have a better
Okay.
example for you. I think you're going to have much more fun with that. Autodesk. I had to do it.
I'm actually not going to talk about Autodesk because from my perspective as a customer, Autodesk is openly hostile to me. And I'm just going to skip
And
over it
it's
because
sad.
because I'm going to skip over it and I'm just going to say nothing. I'm going to just stay here because from my perspective, as a person who is responsible for a couple of installations, and a couple I mean tens, if not hundreds of installations, this is one of the worst experiences that I had. And
Had
the
that one as
experience
well,
and
yes.
the experience wasn't. It was actually not incidental. It was something that was done on purpose. So I think that the way they treated me as a customer created such an animosity from my perspective that I don't want to talk about them. Let's keep out of Autodesk.
Okay.
I think that they are
I had to
even
do it,
Yes, and no. But I think that right now, I don't know of a company who cares less about their customers. There are companies who don't care. This one is actually hostile to me.
They were hostile to one of my partners as well. It was unbelievable.
Yes,
Okay.
but the problem is that it is part of their policy. And this is insanity.
Okay.
This is actually insanity.
Let's skip over that. You started talking about it.
Yes.
Stop. Go
Okay.
back.
So let's talk about the main points. I prepared myself.
Wow.
So flexible pricing. You are able to reach your users with a wide range of budgets, and you can use flexible pricing when you are doing the monthly subscriptions. Then sales conversion rates can be increased because a lot more people are going to buy your product because now your product is only 10% cheaper. Friction associated with software updates.
Friction.
Yes.
Are we talking physics?
No, we are talking about people don't have to buy new software when there is an update because they already have it.
What the hell does that have anything to do with friction?
Yes, because people don't like buying for new software. So they like being forced to buy new version, whatever the new version is. But
Lord, give me strength.
yes, but let me just go on a tangent about friction associated with software updates.
Do we really have to?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because this friction creates another problem.
Another friction?
No. You buy a piece of hardware. For example, you buy editing desk. You decide that you're going to go with some. I'm going to say, let's say you're buying Avid editing desks. So basically, you're buying a software and your hardware at the same time.
Okay.
Because Avid is one of the biggest players that does this, and they are incredible about it. So basically, the software that you buy is going to be updated.
Oh, Avid, Pro Tools.
Yes.
You mean those licenses? Yeah, I know.
So they have an update. You can buy the new version and so on and so on. With every new
But
version,
they do have perpetual licenses as well.
yes, but let me talk about this. I think that they are trying to cancel the perpetual licenses right now, but I'm not sure.
TeamViewer style or something worse?
Yes. But let's not go there because I'm not sure. Let's not be part of litigation, possible litigation here. So allegedly, there is a problem. Allegedly, there is a problem with the updates that they're dealing with. I don't know. So you buy a particular version of the software. Your control surfaces, as they are called, work with this version of the software. You buy a new version of the software. New version of the software requires new version of the macOS because you're running on Macs. You update your Macs, you install the new version of the software. New version of the software does not support older surfaces, and they say that you can recycle them because they don't care about those surfaces. You can buy new surfaces. You have hardware that is working, and you cannot downgrade because you cannot downgrade your Mac to older version of macOS easily. Without completely breaking your chain of production chain, because you need to reinstall all the Macs, you need to reinstall all the plugins, everything else inside the production chain, in order to make one control surface work. And then you basically decide, okay, so this is going to be $500. My work is much more expensive than this. I'm going to run with the flow and I'm going to buy new surfaces because this is the way it needs to be done. So again, much more e-waste and completely no reason to do it. There is no valid reason to say, okay, this model is not supported anymore, other than being basically lazy and trying to sell more units.
There is that. But we talked about Mac problems there, so I'm not going to comment on it. Okay, that sounds...
I recently, just another tangent, I recently bought a couple of older Macs, because you saw them. And I must say that they are good at running Linux. Mac is probably one of the best devices to run Linux.
And Windows.
And Windows, because it's a Intel-based Mac, and it's 15 years old.
And
it works.
I have a Mac Pro Home 5.1, which runs my Snow Leopard installation of OS X, because I have Rosetta and PowerPC plugins on it working perfectly, and that's a machine that's reserved strictly for that, and never going to upgrade that. As I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, I have Macs in accordance to some points in time when I did something with specific hardware exactly because of the reason that you just mentioned. I don't think that it's healthy or good. I just, as you said, go with the flow.
Let's just do a thought experiment. How much of the software that you have installed right now on your Mac, on Rosetta, would you be able to keep on running if you upgraded?
None.
So how many plugins would you need? Would you be able to keep on running?
I have 3 or 4 exceptional plugins on Rosetta, which I do want to use. Literally 3 or 4. It's not a lot, but they're exceptionally good. And the second reason is I'm very familiar with them, so that saves time in terms of the workload. So I am never, ever, ever, ever going to go away from that.
Okay, but there is a newer version.
You mean of the plugin?
The friction is going to be reduced. You're going to have...
Oh, thank you, Mr. Corporate Style.
Flexible pricing for new plugins.
That actually stands to be true in a lot of my use cases, but we are going to come to that in one of the next points.
Okay, so...
I think you made your point very, very well. I understand, and I think everybody understands what you wanted to say.
The biggest problem that I have is that right now is that perpetual licenses should exist by law. We are there. And also, there shouldn't be any way for anybody who's producing hardware to stop supporting hardware in such a way that they're disabling your hardware that you bought. Because software licensing and hardware licensing is not the same. You are leasing the software. Okay, I understand this. You are not gaining any kind of ownership over the software. But when you buy, for example, a speaker, I'm talking about Sonos now, there is no reason for a company to say, okay, now your speaker needs to be replaced because we are not going to support it. Next update is going to break it.
That would be awesome.
Yes, but it happened.
I know.
And this is a biggest thing that I want to get across. We have come to an insane point in consumer electronics / consumer software alive, where everything is considered replaceable and throwaway products. And what we have done is we have said, okay, as a consumer, we have said, okay, we are fine with this.
Yeah, everybody's going with the flow. The only thing you can do about that is lead by example, which I think both you and I are doing. So
Yes, because we are trying to push for reusage of the old hardware. But imagine
we are actively doing it as we speak.
Yes, because your device is okay. This is 5 generations newer than mine, but at the same time, this one
nobody
works.
cares.
Yes, it works.
Yeah,
it works.
This was a recent addition to the flock, that arrived today from our friend in one of our counties.
Colleagues are far away from here.
Yeah, our Linux dude.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing to add to that. I agree with you.
Yeah. So we have a big problem. We have a problem
Yes.
with plant obsolescence. We have a problem with the licensing being, I wouldn't say done incorrectly, but licensing being done in such a greedy way that it is becoming comical. And
oh yes.
And we have come to a point where nobody cares about the consumer.
Yes, because it's all pure capitalism. That's what they're saying. That's capitalism in quotation marks. That's not capitalism for me, but it is what it is.
But the capitalism is whatever you can sell, and as long as
it shouldn't be like that.
Yes, but as long as we are buying, this is a problem.
Again, it shouldn't be like that.
But we should stop buying.
Yeah,
and then it would probably turn around in a pretty spectacular way.
Thank you for setting me up for that, because that's exactly what I did with this laptop. This laptop costs 400 something euros plus VAT. I was considering either this or a new LG Gram.
Yes.
Can you spot the difference in terms of
power, performance, is everything else?
Yeah, and I wanted to do the 32 gigabyte, 2 terabyte disk, 16-inch, blah blah blah. I'm not even going to go into the discussion about the difference in pricing in foreign markets versus ours. That's insane. We already covered that, so I'm not going to go over that again. But you can clearly see that I chose to buy this one for 5 times less the money than the new one, exactly for the reason that you said. I do not want to support that anymore. I'm done.
And there is another reason.
For the foreseeable future, this is what I'm stating. I'm buying only second-hand hardware, nothing else.
Yes,
don't care.
This is also my stance, because this is good enough for everything that I need. And if this is not good enough, I can buy another device
5 generations newer.
No, not only 5 generation newer. I can have basically 2 different devices. I can have an altered portable laptop for one usage case, and I can have a different portable workstation that's going to be able to P50, P51, whatever. It's going to be able to run whatever I need, and I'm going to get both of those for the price of one, or even less than the price of one portable laptop.
Thank you for setting me up for that. We haven't discussed any of this, but I wanted to add something to your point. That is exactly the journey that I went to with Macs specifically. I always wanted to make my MacBook the center of my work for everything.
No, it does work.
No, it's not that. It's beyond that. It's impossible to do what I need to do. I need to do audio, I need to do video, I need to do lectures. I could theoretically do it, but if I wanted to do it, I would have to custom order with 4 terabytes of SSD, and that costs and even then, it doesn't work perfectly. That's exactly why I went with, 3 of them or whatever I have now, because it was impossible. I gave up on that idea, and the only area of my life where I managed to incorporate everything into one device is my music. Not specifically when I'm talking production, but live music. As you evidenced last week, when I go live, I play one synthesizer and one guitar. That's it. I don't need anything else, although I have many more at home.
Okay, but
for work, I cannot do it with one device. It's impossible.
And now back to the topic of the podcast today. What happens if we suddenly wake up and face a reality where you actually have to subscribe to almost everything. So what happens if the subscription model becomes the normal model for the fridge, for the coffee machine? Okay, it sort of is. But what happens if we need to pay additional subscriptions for the other devices? Do you think that...
For what? For doors, for washing machines, for...
Yes, because I can see it happening. The thing I didn't mention, but I wanted to mention, and I had the time to think about it. Do you remember Juicero?
No.
So Juicero was basically extremely expensive juice machine
Okay.
that you had to pay for, and it was something like $800 or something. And then it was immensely complicated for no reason at all. And then you couldn't use your own vegetables. You had to pay a subscription to get the vegetables inside the bags. And I think the subscription was something like $7 per serving or something like this. So what if this became... I had triggered your avocado part of the brain.
Yes, avocado part of the brain. Thank you for that.
Yes, so...
My two-thirds of the way there, brain.
Because what I see in the Juicero thing, I think that the problem was that Juicero actually proved that nobody is going to buy a subscription like this. And where do you think that the border is? Where do you think that the people are going to stop buying subscriptions for whatever? So Netflix is YouTube's and everything else of the world, and then just say, okay, we need the device, as stupid as it is, to be permanently available to us without any subscription.
There is no way in hell I would ever use stuff like that, even to the point of me being a hamster and buying 3 washing machines, 2 refrigerators, and God knows how many other devices that I need, and whatever they are, ahead of time, so that I can store them in my basement or somewhere and keep them there when something breaks, replace them and whatnot, because that's pure insanity. I can understand subscription-based model for some specific services, and for software I can kind of relate to that, kind of, not in absolute terms, which we are also going to discuss in a second, but for everyday needs you're already paying subscriptions for a lot of those. You're paying taxes for the roads, you're paying the cleaning company that takes out the garbage, you're paying subscription for the water, for electricity, for a lot of those stuff. If that needs to stop at the doorstep.
Okay, you could argue that the water, gas, and all the utilities basically are not a subscription. You are paying for what you actually used. So it is usage-based model, but
it's not.
Let me just throw another thing before we wrap this thing up. Do you think that we maybe should have a law against things that are sold with the subscription, so that when the company decides that the subscription is no longer viable for them, that they have to get this thing into the public domain, so that they have to open the API or whatever it is, so that people can actually, if they want to, create an open source solution or any other solution to reuse the thing that you were buying subscription for.
That's a rather good question. I think that discussion was already had in the past more than 50 years in terms of many services, because believe it or not, many moons ago, even water wasn't considered a utility. It wasn't a right. And I remember reading an article from the guy from Nestle, who was basically saying that soon you will pay subscription for the water, and that's okay, but in a businessman way. Not from the perspective of what we have today. That it's different. Basically saying that, to paraphrase it, like water is not your right. I mean, what people are supposed to die without it.
Okay, but let me just quickly make a point. In some countries, water is not something you pay for. For example, Ireland, they started charging people for water actually a couple of years ago. Before that, you had your water, it was just connected, you pay the subscription for the connection itself, but that was it.
Okay, we have that kind of a model here now for many types of utilities, and they are both good and bad at the same time. Because, for example, if the road is 100 meters long and you have the last lot on that road, you're basically going to pay for everybody before you for all the pipes and all of the
Yes.
and stuff like that, which I don't think is right. But I understand the standpoint of why it happens. But to go back to your original question. Some of the things, I mean, we evolve. People's needs evolve, people's requirements, and also the availability of things evolve. I think that you can compare this to a discussion that was had in America some, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatnot, when they when they talked about introducing internet connection as a utility. Okay. I'm not necessarily somebody who needs to comment on the political debate behind it, but I'm kind of for that type of thing, because that means that the information age, one of the definitions, one of the pre-requirements for the information age is equal access to internet by everybody, which we don't have. I'm not talking worldwide, because I'm not here to judge or to implement any kind of thought process for the countries which are not the country where we live in. I can only
Okay.
talk about us. And when I'm saying that people don't have that, they don't. In our country, they don't. It's not a question. It's a truth. So basically, when you if you ask if things should go into the public domain, not really sure what to think about it. Maybe depends on the thing that we're discussing. But what shouldn't be allowed is constantly changing the terms one-sided, which is what happens oftentimes. I remember yesterday or the day before that, we were talking about your subscription to some online services, which went up by 50, 60, 70%.
Yes, I think that we were talking about Google and YouTube Premium.
Oh, I have
Because
nothing.
it went from something from 12 euros to 19 euros or so. So basically 50% up.
No, I have nothing against paying for these sort of services. That's exactly what I'm saying. Cloud services, publishing services, software services, whatnot. Yeah, pay for that. But to change the price 50% in one go, which is what happens all across the globe in many things right now, that's not something that should happen only one-sidedly, let's call it that way. That's a problem, and it's a big one, because it significantly impacts the people who are less fortunate in terms of the economics.
Okay, so let's wrap things up, because I think that the idea of what we need to do right now is just finish this thing.
We have one more topic to discuss, actually.
Yes.
Which is universal audio subscription model.
Ah, okay.
You used that earlier as an example, and I said I would like to talk about it because I've been using their software for more than a decade.
Yes.
I have more than a few of their interfaces as well, so I'm kind of the person to talk about it in a sense. As a customer that bought, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 of their interfaces and cards and whatnot with their plugins, I can say that their subscription model, which they just recently introduced as an existing customer, kind of makes sense. I would say that it's almost the perfect way to do it, because from the standpoint of me as a customer who already bought more than 10,000 euros of their equipment, sound cards, whatnot, they are giving me the plugins basically for free, the subscription ones that are CPU based, because they are going away from the chip based plugins. They're moving to the CPU, like general purpose computing type of idea. But they're not making me pay for the same plugins again, which I think is the way in which, let's say, plugin based, software based things should work, in opposite to what we were discussing earlier about Adobe and others, which is not necessarily the way in which I would prefer to do it. So that's that. From the standpoint of a new user coming into the universal audio ecosystem, you can still buy their physical, sound card, which costs a lot of money. And then you get some vouchers for extra plugins. Again, this is good. And then on top of it, those plugins, you can get them in Spark, as they're called, their piece of software for that. You can get those for free as well, if I'm not mistaken. But also the viable use case of a new customer who doesn't want to buy Universal Audio hardware, but wants to use just the plugins, Spark subscription, that makes sense. Plugins via subscription, that kind of makes sense. Still, let me be very clear about this. I'm against the idea of just having subscription-based model. There needs to be a one-time permanent type of payment solution for those plugins as well. I'm not going away from that.
Okay, but there is also a problem with those niche products, basically. Okay, Universal Audio is a niche product. It's a amazing piece of hardware. It is compared to Behringers of the world. It's an amazing piece of hardware, because I have to say that I'm all in for cheaper products like Behringer is. But I'm not. I have no.
To your detriment in this case.
Yes, but my problem is that, and this is probably the reason why Universal Audio is so much better when compared to Behringer, because they have a product that is expensive. It is. But at the same time, they actually have some sort of money to get into development and into support for their products, because
their support is quite good.
Yes, because just to clear this thing up, I don't have anything against Behringer other than their drivers being, I would say, barely usable. And
old Intel level.
Yes, and this is the reason why I'm pointing this thing up is they're trying to survive without using a subscription model. They're trying to sell only the hardware to you.
Yeah, in many units.
Yes, the units are cheap, and the units are not that bad on the hardware level, but they are almost unusable when it comes to drivers. And this is something that is especially important for the niche products like Universal Audio, Behringer are, because not a lot of people need multi-channel recording.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people need microphones
that cost €500
DSPs, DSPs,
FPGAs,
and so on and so on.
Whatnot, yeah.
So companies that make niche products have to have a way of making money to develop new products, while at the same time they cannot charge you too much, because you won't be buying their products. Yeah. So broadcast audio is like this.
Video equipment, camera equipment, photo equipment.
The Blackmagic,
basically everything.
Blackmagic completely turned broadcasting upside down, because what they did is they introduced extremely cheap hardware
compared to the regular prices.
But also compared to anything else. Because right now, some of their products are they are even cheap compared to anything else on the market. So I see the reason for the subscription model, because they need to make money, and they need to make continuous money throughout the year.
Yeah, to fuel development.
To get development working, because you need to pay developers.
Yeah, I agree. Hence the reason why your next audio interface is going to be a Universal Audio. I'm going to make sure of that.
Okay. I'm completely fine with it. Right now,
I think you're fed up with the driver software and other issues of the...
No, I just this is the part of my part of my character that I just...
No, you're just being toxic to yourself. That's what you are.
No, I just say, okay, whatever, it works, and I'm not going to change it. The same thing that is your case, your PC case, open or closed?
Which one, at home? No, all of them are closed. Why? Yeah, yours are constantly open.
Yes, none of mine are.
I know. I got tired of that because
I got tired of opening them again. So, but just don't close them.
Yeah. Okay, I understand that as well.
So let's wrap this thing up.
Okay, so subscription-based model, okay.
A subscription-based model, okay, but permanent subscription should be always available.
That's not a subscription. That's a perpetual license.
So permanent license to own or should be available. And I think that we should be pushing for the right to open source or open obsolete abandonware hardware and software.
I agree, that could fuel a lot of additional development.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
only in the open source community and other enthusiastic communities.
Okay, so let us know what do you think about it, and see you next time.
Yeah, see ya. Bye.
Bye.